Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. So, we've got a really unsettling one today. We are looking at a text called Fatal Patterns, the Smiley Face Killer's Theory. And our mission here is basically to explore this incredibly disturbing phenomenon that spans decades all across the United States.
Yeah, it's a heavy topic,
Yeah.
but an important one to dig into.
Right. So, I want you to picture this scenario.
Mm.
Imagine you're out drinking with friends, just a normal weekend night. You're having fun, and then suddenly someone in your group just vanishes.
It's completely gone,
Exactly. And then hours, or maybe even days or weeks later, their body is found in a river, or maybe a lake or an industrial canal.
which is horrifying. And the police almost always rule these as accidental drownings. They say the person was intoxicated, slipped, and that's it.
Right, case closed.
Mm.
But today we are looking at the possibility that these are not just tragic coincidences. We're asking, is there a sinister, highly coordinated network hiding murders in plain sight?
Yeah.
Murders marked only by a really disturbing piece of graffiti left near the bodies, a smiley face. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, we have to start with the raw facts of the victims themselves before we even touch the extreme internet theories. Because the official narrative of, accidental drowning, it really got challenged when people started looking at the demographics.
Yeah, that stood out to me right away. It's not a random mix of people.
Not at all. The victims are almost entirely young men, mostly late teens or in their 20s, usually college-aged, and they are overwhelmingly athletic and very social.
So guys are having a good time, and the origin of this whole theory goes back to the early 2000s, right?
Right, with two retired New York City detectives, Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte. They started comparing these drowning cases from multiple states. They didn't just look at their own backyard.
Which is key. And the connections they found were chilling. The victims were out at bars, vanished suddenly, and then were found in waterways. And then the cherry on top, the really creepy part, is the smiley face graffiti painted right near the recovery sites.
Yeah, and Gannon and Duarte, they came to a pretty shocking conclusion. They said, look, this isn't a coincidence. This is a coordinated group, or maybe multiple killers, actively targeting intoxicated men and staging the deaths to look like drownings.
It's like a dark, real-world Bermuda Triangle located right in American college towns. But I have to push back a little here. Why jump straight to a nationwide murder network? What was it about these specific cases that made seasoned detectives just flat out refuse to accept the accidental drowning ruling?
Well, what's fascinating here is the shift in how they analyzed the data. They went from looking at isolated local incidents to synthesizing this huge multi-state, decades-long pattern. And it really gained traction because of the inconsistencies in the autopsies.
Wait, autopsies, like injuries that didn't match a drowning?
Exactly. I mean, water destroys evidence, sure. It washes away DNA and all that.
Yeah.
But forensic pathologists can tell if an injury happened before or after death.
Because of how blood flows, right, like bruising.
You nailed it. If you're hit while you're alive, your heart is pumping, so you bruise. If your body just bumps into rocks floating down a river a week later, it doesn't bruise the same way. Gannon and Duarte found blunt force trauma, signs of a struggle that just did not match someone drunkenly falling into a river.
Wow, okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, because the medical stuff is just the start. Let's talk about the specific anomalies that make the whole accidental thing just not add up.
Oh, the anomalies are wild. I mean, families and internet sleuths really latched onto these.
Yeah, like victims vanishing from super crowded areas. How does someone just disappear without a single witness noticing?
It defies logic for an urban environment.
And the CCTV anomaly. There's this one specific case where a victim leaves a crowded bar. The security footage shows him walking perfectly normally, like a straight line, moments before he vanishes. And then his body is found in the water miles away.
Which brings up the geographic anomalies.
Yeah.
You have cases where victims supposedly traveled impossible distances while highly intoxicated.
Right. If I'm heavily intoxicated, I might stumble off the sidewalk. But completely bypassing severe physical barriers, traveling impossible distances totally unnoticed, that feels like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. How does someone walk normally on camera and then end up miles away in a completely blocked off river?
It's a huge red flag, especially when you consider the terrain. Some of these rivers are protected by steep concrete embankments or heavy brush. It takes effort to get to the water. An accidental fall in those specific spots is extremely difficult.
And what about the swimming factor? I read that a lot of families insisted their kids were incredibly strong swimmers.
Yeah, that's a recurring theme. These are athletic guys. Families just do not buy that their son, who grew up swimming, would just fall in and silently drown without a fight.
Which naturally leads to the internet explosion, because you have all these anomalies spanning literally decades, and speculation just went off the charts.
Oh, absolutely. The internet took this and ran with it. Theories about secret serial killer networks, copycats, underground occult organizations, you name it.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it kind of makes sense why the theories got so crazy. The sheer volume of cases across multiple states makes it really hard to just dismiss the family's concerns entirely.
Right. Even when the internet theories veer into the extreme, they are rooted in genuine physical inconsistencies that the police reports don't adequately explain.
Okay, so we've built up this terrifying idea of an organized network. But we have to pivot here and look at the skeptics, the FBI, and honestly, the psychology of tragedy itself.
We definitely do.
Yeah.
Because law enforcement is very clear on this. Police departments nationwide and the FBI, they entirely reject the smiley face killer's theory.
Just completely throw it out.
Completely. They point out the glaring lack of evidence. There are no confirmed suspects linking these cases.
No DNA, no fingerprints crossing state line.
Exactly. No forensic links connecting them, and absolutely no direct evidence of any organized killings.
But what about the graffiti? The smiley faces by the bodies? That's the part that really trips people up.
Well, critics have a pretty strong counterargument for that. Smiley face graffiti is just incredibly ubiquitous in urban environments.
Oh, meaning it's literally everywhere anyway.
Yeah. Think about exactly where these bodies are found. Near bridges, tunnels, concrete waterways. Those are exactly the places teenagers and artists go to spray paint.
So it's not a calling card, it's just background noise.
That's the FBI's stance. It's confirmation bias. You look for a smiley face under a bridge, you're going to find one.
And I guess we have to acknowledge the really tragic reality here, which is that intoxicated college students drinking near rivers do sadly drown accidentally every year. It's a known hazard.
It is. It's a devastating common tragedy. And this raises an important question about the psychological element at play here.
Yeah, because humans are practically hardwired to search for patterns, right? Especially inside a tragedy. So what does this all mean? Is this like looking at clouds? You know, if you're desperately looking for a monster in the sky, eventually you'll see a monster. Are we just connecting random dots because the alternative, that random, senseless tragedy strikes young people, is just too scary to accept?
That's a really profound point. The grief these families experience is unimaginable. And for grieving parents, an evil mastermind is, paradoxically, almost easier to process than a random, meaningless slip near a river.
Because you can be angry at a mastermind. You can't fight a slippery rock.
Exactly. A killer gives you a target. It gives the tragedy a narrative. So the line between genuine investigative anomalies and the human need for closure gets very, very blurry. Once detectives started looking for connections, similarities became way easier to spot.
So we're kind of left trying to synthesize these two extremes. You know, maybe the truth is somewhere in that messy middle ground.
I think that's the most logical takeaway. Some of these are undoubtedly tragic, terrible accidents.
And maybe some are isolated local crimes, like a mugging gone wrong, that just got lumped under this one giant scary internet theory.
Right. And perhaps, just perhaps, a few actual calculated murders slipped past investigators unnoticed because they fit the pattern of an accident so perfectly.
Which brings it all back to the human stakes. We have to remember these aren't just campfire stories. These are real victims, real disappearances, and real families who are still looking for answers.
They are. The reality of that loss is the core of this whole thing.
Yeah. And I bet the next time you, the listener, are walking in an urban environment, especially near a waterway at night, you might just notice the graffiti around you and feel a little chill.
It definitely changes how you look at your surroundings.
Right.
You know, reviewing all these sources, the most disturbing concept wasn't even the idea of a nationwide cult. It was the idea that the perfect weapon wasn't violence at all.
What was it then?
It was the ability to make a crime look completely accidental, using the water to erase everything.
Wow. Yeah, that is terrifying. If a killer's greatest weapon is making murder look like a mundane statistical tragedy, how many other accidental patterns in our society are actually hiding something far darker, simply because no one has thought to look for a smiley face?